the best lie someone has ever told you? For months, my sister had been asking to borrow thousands from my wedding savings account for what she called a personal emergency that she couldn't talk about. Since we'd been sharing an apartment and expenses for 2 years without issues, I agreed to let her access it temporarily. But then I started noticing things. She rearranged her schedule to take double shifts at the restaurant, sometimes working until 3 in the morning. I'd find her staring at her laptop with dark circles under her eyes, pushing around food she never seemed to eat. The girl who used to laugh at our terrible reality shows now fell asleep on the couch most nights, looking completely exhausted. Seeing all this, I couldn't help but feel worried about her secret, personal emergency. One Thursday, I left my afternoon class early and decided to grab coffee near campus. That's when I saw her standing outside the funeral home on the corner, her arm around a woman who was sobbing into her shoulder. They stood there for what felt like forever. When the woman finally looked up, I could see she was young, maybe our age, with the kind of exhaustion that seemed deeper than just being tired. I thought about approaching, but couldn't. Still, I wanted to know who she was and how everything fit into the big puzzle. I went through the mail one morning and discovered payment plans tucked between pizza coupons. I found pediatric hospital bills, funeral services, burial costs, flowers, basically thousands of dollars spread across monthly installments. I felt even more confused than ever. We didn't know anyone who had passed. The next week, I followed her after her shift. She walked straight to that same funeral home, but this time sat down with a serious-looking man in a dark suit. They spread papers across his desk while she nodded and signed documents. But she didn't come home after that meeting. Instead, she walked back toward the restaurant district and met the same crying woman at a bus stop. For an hour, they sat together going through a folder, my sister pointing to different sections and explaining something that made the woman nod through fresh tears and hug my sister with seemingly a strong grip. That night, I gently asked her what was going on. I wasn't angry, just confused and worried about her. After some hesitation, the truth came out. Her coworker's 2-year-old had died suddenly. No life insurance, no savings, barely enough for rent. The family was looking at a bare-bones burial they couldn't even afford. I sat there stunned as she explained how she'd been covering the funeral costs so this woman could bury her baby with dignity. "Are you disappointed in me?" she asked. I wasn't sure at first. My entire wedding fund was gone and her credit cards were maxed out. The future I'd been planning seemed indefinitely postponed. I remember looking at her for the longest time, watching tears roll down her cheeks as she apologized over and over. Part of me felt the sting of betrayal, but underneath that was something much stronger, an overwhelming pride in who my sister had become. I had to call my fiancé that night and explain why we'd be having a much smaller wedding than planned. When I told him the money had gone to help a grieving mother bury her baby, he was quiet for a moment, then said anyone would be lucky to marry into a family with that kind of heart. My sister insisted she'd pay back every penny, and I know she will. We're planning a budget wedding now, just close family and friends. She jokes that she'll be working double shifts for the next 2 years, but she's never once seemed to regret her choice. I've never been prouder to call someone my sister.